Chicago, 1893. The city was alive like never before. The streets were filled with carriages, vendors, and strangers from all over the world. The World's Columbian Exposition, better known as the World's Fair, had arrived. It was a celebration of progress, invention, and the bright future of America. Millions poured in, eager to see electric lights, moving sidewalks, and wonders from across the globe. But not everyone came to celebrate. Some saw the fair as an opportunity for darker reasons. One man in particular, Herman Webster Mudgett, better known as H. Holmes, used the chaos of the fair to hide something chilling. Outwardly, he was charming, handsome, and a doctor of medicine. But behind that polished mask was a manipulator, a con artist, and a killer. Holmes built a strange three-story building in the Inglewood neighborhood of Chicago. To neighbors, it looked like a simple hotel, but whispers spread of secret rooms, twisting hallways, and hidden chambers. It soon became infamous as the Murder Castle. But here's the twist. Was it really the house of horrors that the newspapers claimed? Or was part of it a legend born from the sensational journalism of the 1890s? And how many lives did Holmes truly take? Stay with us as we uncover the chilling story of H. Holmes, the myths of the Murder Castle, and the terrifying truth behind America's first documented serial killer. Hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss stories from history's darkest corners. The early life of Herman Webster Mudgett. Herman Webster Mudgett was born on May 16, 1861, in Gilmanton, New Hampshire. His family was strict, deeply religious, and far from warm. His father, Levi, was harsh and controlling, and his mother focused heavily on church and discipline. Their home was more about obedience than love. Even as a child, Herman was different. He was unusually intelligent, curious, and sometimes cold. Some neighbors later claimed he showed cruelty to animals, though these stories are difficult to prove. What is clear is that Herman lacked the warmth that most children naturally show. School was no escape. He was bullied, mocked for being small and strange. One story stands out. Classmates once forced him to touch a human skeleton in the doctor's office, hoping to terrify him. But instead of fear, Herman felt fascination. He was drawn to the bones, the structure of the body, the mystery of life and death. That spark turned into an obsession. He became fascinated with medicine, anatomy, and what lay beneath the skin. Combined with his sharp mind and lack of empathy, it was a dangerous mix, one that would later shape his terrifying future. Becoming H. Holmes, Herman's intelligence opened doors. He went on to study medicine at the University of Michigan. But even there, his darker nature showed itself. He didn't just study cadavers in the lab, he stole them. He would use corpses to stage fake accidents, then claim insurance money. These early scams taught him two lessons. Death could be turned into profit, and lies could be just as powerful as violence. At the same time, Herman discovered another weapon: charm. He had a calm, confident way of speaking. He dressed well, carried himself like a gentleman, and always seemed trustworthy. Women admired him, businessmen respected him, and strangers felt safe in his presence. But behind that charm was a man full of deceit. He abandoned his birth name, Herman Mudgett, and reinvented himself as Dr. Henry Howard Holmes. The name sounded professional, polished, and respectable. It was the perfect mask for a man who would build a career out of lies, fraud, and murder. Chicago and the castle. In the late 1880s, Holmes moved to Chicago. The city was booming. New jobs, new buildings, new opportunities. At first, Holmes blended in, taking work at a local pharmacy. But when the owner mysteriously disappeared, Holmes took control, as if nothing had happened. No one asked too many questions. With money and status in hand, Holmes began his most ambitious project, On a corner in Englewood, he built a massive 3-story structure. To outsiders, it was just a mixed-use building, a pharmacy on the first floor, apartments and hotel rooms above. But as the walls went up, strange things began to appear in the design. There were windowless rooms, staircases that led nowhere, doors that opened into brick walls, trapdoors, and soundproof chambers. Rumors spread of gas pipes that could pump deadly fumes into locked rooms. Chutes led from the upper floors directly to the basement, where furnaces and vats of acid waited. The building quickly earned a chilling nickname, the Murder Castle. But here's where the myth meets reality. Newspapers of the 1890s were in fierce competition, and sensational stories sold best. Reporters described Holmes's building as a maze of torture chambers, almost like a haunted house designed by a mad scientist. Modern historians, however, argue that not all of these claims were true. Blueprints like the Sanborn fire insurance maps of 1895 show odd layouts, but don't confirm everything the papers claimed. It's likely that some features were exaggerated or even invented to thrill readers. Still, the castle was undeniably strange, and Holmes's behavior made it sinister. The World's Fair, a city of dreams and a hunting ground. In 1893, Chicago hosted the World's Columbian Exposition. Millions of visitors arrived to marvel at new inventions, grand buildings, and cultural exhibits. The fair symbolized progress and the bright future of America. But for Holmes, it was the perfect hunting ground. Young women came from small towns seeking work and adventure. Many arrived alone, hoping for independence in the big city. In the chaos of the fair, if someone went missing, it was easy for others to assume they had simply moved on. Holmes took advantage. His castle looked respectable from the outside. He offered cheap rooms, jobs at his pharmacy, and promises of safety. Women who trusted him often vanished soon after. Inside, some victims were locked in rooms with no escape. Others may have been exposed to gas, their cries hidden by soundproof walls. Their bodies were dropped through chutes into the basement, where Holmes used furnaces and acid to destroy the evidence. To the public, Holmes remained the charming doctor. But behind closed doors, he was a predator using the World's Fair as cover for his darkest crimes. The victims. The true number of Holmes's victims remains one of history's most haunting mysteries. Some believe he killed around 20 to 30 people. Others, including Holmes himself in his exaggerated confessions, claimed the number was over 200. Most of his victims were young women who trusted him. He offered them jobs, gave them attention, and sometimes began romantic relationships. Once inside his castle, many were never seen again. But Holmes didn't stop with strangers. His business partner, Benjamin Pitezel, became another victim. The two had planned an insurance scam, but Holmes killed Pitezel instead. Even worse, Holmes later murdered 3 of Pitezel's children, Alice, Nellie, and Howard. These child murders shocked the nation and stripped away any illusion that Holmes was simply a con artist. Holmes's cruelty went beyond killing. He saw people not as human beings, but as tools, objects to be used and discarded. To him, lives were nothing more than opportunities for profit or control. That cold perspective is what makes him one of America's first and most infamous serial killers. The Castle Exposed. Holmes's downfall began not because of murder, but because of greed. His endless frauds and scams caught the attention of authorities. When the Pitezel children went missing, detectives began to follow Holmes's trail. In 1894, he was arrested in Boston for insurance fraud. At first, investigators had no idea of the true scope of his crimes. But as they dug deeper, the horrifying truth began to surface. When police searched the castle, they found secret rooms, odd passages, trapdoors, and the infamous basement with its furnace. Newspapers went wild. dubbing it the House of Horrors. While some descriptions were exaggerated, there was no denying the building's strangeness and its connection to Holmes's victims. The castle itself burned mysteriously in 1895, likely an act of arson. Whether someone tried to erase the horrors inside or simply sought revenge remains unknown. The ruins stood for decades before being demolished in 1938. Holmes's capture and trial. Holmes's trial in 1895 became one of the most sensational events of the decade. The courtroom was packed, and newspapers reported every detail. Holmes acted as his own lawyer at times, twisting facts, smiling calmly, and leaving everyone unsettled. In a chilling confession, Holmes once wrote, "I was born with the devil in me. I could not help the fact that I was a murderer, no more than the poet can help the inspiration to sing." Whether he truly believed this or was simply trying to shock the public, the words cemented his image as a man without conscience. Holmes claimed to have killed more than 200 people, though historians believe he greatly exaggerated. In reality, investigators could only confirm a fraction of that number. But even a handful of murders was enough to reveal his monstrous nature. On May 7, 1896, Holmes was executed by hanging in Philadelphia. Witnesses reported that he remained calm to the very end, showing little fear, as if even death itself could not break his mask. Myth, memory, and timeline. To separate fact from legend, let's trace the concrete timeline of Holmes's story. 1861, born in Gilmanton, New Hampshire. 1886, arrives in Chicago, works at a pharmacy. 1887 to 1892, construction of the castle. 1893, World's Fair, crimes peak. 1894, arrested in Boston for fraud. 1895, castle searched, dubbed House of Horrors. Castle burns later that year. 1896, Holmes executed in Philadelphia. 1938, castle ruins demolished. Today, the site is home to a U.S. post office at 63rd and Wallace. Every day, people walk into that post office to mail letters, unaware that beneath their feet once stood America's most infamous house of horrors. Conclusion: the story of H.H. Holmes is more than just a tale of murder. It's a warning about appearances, charm, and how easily trust can be betrayed. Holmes looked like a doctor, a businessman, even a gentleman. But behind that mask was a predator, cold and calculating. Chicago in 1893 was full of hope, but inside Holmes's castle, there was only fear and death. Even today, more than a century later, the legend of H.H. Holmes continues to haunt us. His crimes force us to ask difficult questions. Can appearances still fool us the way they fooled people back then? How do we know who we can truly trust? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, when people walk into that Englewood post office today, do they realize they are standing on the ashes of a nightmare? Or has history buried the truth too deep? If you found this story eye-opening, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories like this one. Dark, chilling, and filled with lessons we can't afford to forget.